Some nights the world feels too loud, even when your room is quiet. The day leaves behind small echoes, unfinished emails, bright screens, traffic you no longer hear but still carry in your shoulders, in the hinge of your jaw, in the place between your eyebrows where worry likes to rest. And yet, beneath all of that, there is still a gentler layer of life, a slower rhythm, a hidden coolness, like shade under a tree you loved as a child. So tonight, let's take a soft step, quietly away from the sharp edges of the day. Let your breath arrive the way it wants to arrive, without being corrected. Let your shoulders drop by a fraction. Let your tongue rest gently behind your teeth. If your eyes are open, you can let them soften. If they're closed, you can simply notice the calm weight of your eyelids, like two small curtains drifting toward the stage. In a moment, we will drift toward a very old story, older than most things we name as history. Not a story meant to shock or challenge you, just a quiet river of images flowing through time. The ancient people of southern Mesopotamia, those we now call the Sumerians, lived on flat land where water decided everything. Water fed their reeds and barley. Water filled their canals and wells. Water also vanished sometimes, leaving dust and thirst behind. So it makes sense that when they tried to imagine how the universe began, they did not begin with mountains or fire. They began with water. In their sacred imagination, there was a vast sweetness below the ground, a freshwater depth that existed before cities, before temples, before the first brick warmed in the sun. They called it the Apsu, sometimes written as Apsu, a deep, quiet ocean beneath the foundations of the world, a source of springs and wells, and a place where divine wisdom could live in silence. When you picture it, you don't need to picture anything dramatic. Just imagine a darkness that isn't frightening, more like the dark inside a seashell, cool and smooth. Imagine water so still it feels like velvet. Imagine the faintest shimmer, as if a single lamp were reflected on the surface, but the lamp is far above, and the reflection arrives down here like a distant star. And now, very gently, I'll offer you a question to hold, not like a problem to solve, but like a soft blanket you can rest under. What would a place that existed before creation look like? Dark, cool, or soft like a blanket? You don't have to answer. You can simply let your mind hover near the question, the way a leaf hovers on slow water, carried without effort. Tonight's story will follow a simple path. We'll begin in the deep sweetness of Apsu. Then we'll rise slowly toward an ancient city called Eridu, where people once built temples close to water, as if they wanted to keep touching that hidden coolness beneath their feet. We'll meet Enki, the wise one, not as a thunderous ruler in the sky, but as a careful craftsman of the deep, someone who shapes knowledge the way hands shape clay. And we'll let the story move the way water moves, never rushing, never forcing, always finding its own gentle way forward. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. And now, let's return to the quiet. In the Sumerian world, Apsu was not only a place, it was also an idea, an understanding that the most important things often live underneath, unseen. Under a dry field, there can be moisture. Under a busy life, there can still be a steady core. Under the words you spoke today, there can still be unspoken tenderness. If you have ever stood at a sink and watched water collect, or listened to rain in the distance, you already know something of what Apsu means. It is the part of the world that does not demand your attention. It simply exists, supporting everything above it. On a quiet night like this, you might imagine that the Apsu has a sound, barely a sound at all, not waves, not splashes, more like a tiny, continuous hush, as if the earth itself is breathing through water. In the old stories, it was in these depths that Enki, also known in later languages as Ea, made his dwelling. He was the keeper of wisdom, the patron of crafts, the lord of fresh water's gentle intelligence. And his home, in some tellings, was both a palace and a workshop, a place where creation was not shouted into being, but patiently made. I like to imagine that workshop as a room of cool stone, lit by a low oil lamp. The flame is steady, not flickering. The air smells faintly of clay, reeds, and something mineral, like wet river rocks. Tools are laid out neatly, not for display, but for use. A stylus, a smooth bowl, a reed brush. Nothing here is rushed. Everything is meant to last. And perhaps this is why the Sumerians placed so much reverence in the act of making, of shaping earth, of guiding water, of writing marks into soft clay. For them, civilization was not merely built, it was tended like a garden, it was maintained like a canal that needs clearing after silt settles. So if your mind tries to run ahead, if it tries to collect facts, names, dates, you can let it soften. Tonight, we are not running, we are floating. Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing on the plain at dusk. The air is cooler now, the sun has lowered, turning the horizon into a band of copper and rose. Somewhere nearby, a channel carries water in a narrow ribbon, reflecting the first hints of evening. You can hear insects begin their soft night music, and far away, a dog calls once, then falls quiet. In the distance, there is a low silhouette, an early temple mound, not yet the towering step of later ages, but a humble shape against the sky. Around it, small houses of mud brick rest like sleeping animals. Smoke rises thinly from cooking fires. The scent of barley porridge and dates drifts on the air. This is not a world of noise, it is a world of repetition, of daily rhythms, of hands that know what to do because they have done it before, drawing water, mending a reed basket, smoothing a brick, sweeping a courtyard at dawn. And in that steady human quiet, the old stories say there was always the sense of something beneath. Under the city, under the temple, under the warm dust of footsteps, there was Apsu, a sweetness that did not belong to the surface. Sometimes, in later versions of the myths, there is conflict. There are arguments among divine powers, but tonight we will hold the gentlest thread, the idea that beneath disturbance there is still a deeper calm. The Apsu remains even when the world above shifts and changes. You may notice as you breathe that your own body is like that. On the surface, thoughts can swirl, memories can drift in and out, plans can tug at you like little hooks. But deeper, under all the motion, there is a steadier place, a quiet pool. So if you'd like, you can take one slow breath and imagine you are breathing with the Apsu. Inhale, as if cool water were rising gently toward the shore. Exhale, as if the surface becomes smooth again. No effort, no performance, just a rhythm. In the stories, the people who lived near Eridu built their sacred spaces close to water, as if their temples were listening for that subterranean hush. Archaeology suggests early temple levels there were associated with access to fresh water, and the idea itself is beautifully simple: to place your house of prayer near a source that feels eternal. You can imagine priests and caretakers moving slowly through a courtyard at night. Their sandals make soft sounds on cooled brick. A small lamp glows near a pool. The water is dark, like ink, and it holds the reflection of the stars without trembling. A breeze passes through the reeds, and the reeds answer with a gentle rustle, like pages turning in an old book. In a little while, we'll walk closer to that pool. We'll let our story become more intimate. A hand touching the water, a bowl filled from the spring, a quiet room where scribes press a stylus into clay and leave behind the patient tracks of thought. But for now, in this first part of our journey, we can simply linger on the threshold, because thresholds are soft places. They do not demand decisions, they only invite you to pause. And here, at the threshold of Apsu and Eridu, there is a small seed of curiosity, nothing sharp, nothing urgent, just a faint glow, like moonlight on water. If there truly is a sweetness beneath the world, what else might be quietly waiting beneath our ordinary days? You don't need to search for the answer tonight. Let the question rest. Let it sink the way a pebble sinks, slowly without disturbance, until it reaches the calm bottom. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. And as we step toward the ancient city, following the hush of water through the warm air of evening, you can feel your own mind beginning to settle, like silt drifting down, leaving the surface clear. In the next part, we will arrive at Eridu itself, and we will let the temple and its sacred pool welcome us the way a quiet room welcomes a tired traveler. For now, just breathe, and let the sweetness under the world hold you, gently. The city does not arrive all at once. It comes the way a shoreline comes when you have been traveling beside water for a long time. First, a change in texture beneath your feet, then a thin line on the horizon, then a handful of shapes that become homes, walls, courtyards, and quiet lamps. Eridu rests low on the plain, close to where the land remembers how to drink. Even now, in our imagination, you can feel that memory in the air, a faint coolness rising from beneath the dust, a softness in the breeze, as if the earth itself has been lightly misted from within. As you approach, the evening grows deeper. The sun has slipped behind the far edge of the world, leaving only its afterglow, an amber band that slowly fades into indigo. The first stars appear one by one, not hurried, not dramatic, simply present. You can let your gaze drift up to them and then drift back down, the way a tired mind likes to do, wide, then close, wide, then close. On the outskirts, you pass reed beds whispering to themselves. Their leaves rub together in a slow hush, a sound like soft fabric. You pass a narrow canal where water slides along the mud banks, carrying the reflection of the sky. Somewhere a clay jar is set down gently with a dull, comforting thump. And then you are inside the city. Not a city of noise, but a city of routines. A woman sits near a doorway, braiding reeds into a mat with hands that know the pattern without thinking. A man pours water into a basin and washes dust from his wrists, letting it fall away in a thin brown stream. Children's voices rise and fall in the distance like small birds, then fade as someone calls them in for the night. You can almost smell it. Baked mud brick cooling after the day's heat, faint smoke from cooking fires, crushed dates, damp earth near water. In the center of Eridu, there is a place set aside for stillness. The temple. It does not tower like later monuments. It is humble in shape, but deliberate in feeling. An arrangement of rooms and courtyards where footsteps naturally slow. The walls are pale in the last light. The corners hold shadow like folded cloth. A low doorway invites you to bow your head slightly as you enter, and that small bow is already a kind of letting go. Inside the courtyard, the air is cooler. A sacred pool lies there, dark and quiet, like a piece of night held in a shallow bowl. The surface is so calm that it looks almost solid, as if you could place your palm on it and feel it give just a little, like velvet. If you listen, there is no loud splashing, no restless motion, only the faintest ripple when a breeze touches it, then stillness again. The pool reflects the lamplight, the sky, the edge of the temple roof. It reflects you too, but softly, without judgment, as though it is content to hold whatever passes over it. This pool is not merely water. It is a reminder of Apsu. In the old imagination, the Apsu was the deep fresh water below the world, the hidden sweetness that fed wells and springs. And here, in Eridu, the sacred pool feels like a small, reachable mirror of that larger depth Apsu made close, Apsu made gentle enough for human hands. You can imagine the caretakers of this temple moving quietly at this hour, not hurried, not theatrical. They do simple things with care, sweeping dust from brick, trimming a wick, placing a bowl in its usual place. Their lives are shaped by repetition, and repetition, when it is kind, becomes calming. If your mind is still holding the day, you can let it borrow their rhythm. Sweep, breathe, set something down, breathe again. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, a small room holds records, tablets of clay pressed with careful marks. A scribe sits there under a low lamp. The light is warm and small, the rest of the room a gentle darkness. The scribe's stylus touches the clay with a faint tick, 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 like rain beginning at a distance. The sound is not sharp, it is steady. Here, knowledge is not loud, it does not announce itself. It rests, it waits on shelves of wood, it dries in neat rows. It becomes a kind of quiet companionship, proof that someone before you also tried to keep track of the world in a patient way, and perhaps that is why this place feels safe. It holds two kinds of steadiness at once, the steadiness of water and the steadiness of written memory. If you have ever written something down to feel less overwhelmed, you already understand that instinct. To put a thought somewhere outside your mind is to make room for breath. Near the pool, you might notice a small stone step leading down. One step, then another. Not deep, not dangerous, just enough to suggest descent, as if the temple itself is gently inviting you toward what lies underneath. And the invitation is simple. Slow down. As you stand there in the courtyard, the city's sounds soften. The children are quiet now, the cooking fires dim. Even the canal seems to whisper more softly. The night has the feeling of a blanket being pulled up, not tight, just comforting. This is where our gentle journey begins to deepen. Because in Eridu, the people did not only live beside water, they listened to it. They built with it in mind, they placed their sacred space near it. They gave their attention to the way it arrived and the way it left, the way it could sustain and the way it could vanish. And from that attention, they shaped stories. Stories that were not simply entertainment, but tools for living. Tonight, we are using those stories the same way, as tools for returning to calm. So let yourself imagine this. Under the temple courtyard, under the dark pool, under the cooled bricks, there is the hidden depth of Apsu. Not a scary abyss, but a calm foundation, a place that does not ask you to solve anything, a place that simply holds. What would it be like to have a place inside you that works the same way? A quiet depth under the surface, a steady sweetness under the noise. You can take a slow breath and feel that question settle. Inhale, softly. Exhale, longer. In the Sumerian imagination, Enki belongs to these depths, not as a distant idea, but as a presence that feels close to water, close to craft, close to the patient making of things. In some stories, He is the one who understands the hidden structure of life, the way channels should be cut, the way reeds should be woven, the way words should be pressed into clay so they can last. And the most soothing thought is this: his wisdom is not frantic. It is not the kind of knowledge that chases you. It is the kind of knowledge that waits for you to become quiet enough to receive it. So tonight, we do not chase, we do not force. We simply step closer to the pool. You might kneel at the edge and look into the dark surface. The reflected stars seem to float there, gently, as if the sky has decided to rest in water for a while. The lamplight stretches into a thin gold line, then breaks into small, shimmering pieces, then settles again. If you place your fingertips in the water, it is cool. Not cold, just cool enough to feel like relief. A simple sensation, grounding you in the present moment. Beyond the courtyard, a corridor runs along the temple wall. The bricks are warm on the outside, cooler within. A curtain of woven reeds hangs in a doorway, breathing with the air. You can hear a single drop fall from a clay spout into a jar, then silence. Far above, on the roofline, the night wind touches the cornerstones and moves on. Everything here seems designed to reassure you. Nothing sudden, nothing sharp, only the slow agreement between water, earth, and sky for now. And here comes a soft discovery, like a pebble dropped into still water. The Apsu in the ancient mind was not only a mythic ocean, it was also a way of noticing the world. They could feel water under their feet. They could watch it rise in a well. They could see it seep into the soil and return, and so they gave that hidden cycle a name, a story, and a sacred feeling. They did not separate the practical from the spiritual. To them, guiding water was guiding life. Writing in clay was preserving life. Keeping a pool still in the center of a temple was like keeping a calm place in the center of the self. If that thought feels gentle to you, you can let it stay, because in a busy modern life, we often treat calm as something we must earn. But what if calm is something that already exists underneath, like Apsu, and our only task is to remember how to reach it? Tonight, Eridu is teaching us that. Not with arguments, not with drama, just with an image, a dark pool holding lamplight and stars, surrounded by cooled brick and quiet breath. In a moment, we will move deeper into the temple's inner rooms, and we will follow the idea of Enki's workshop beneath the water, where knowledge is made slowly, like a craft. And the closer we come to that slow-making place, the more your thoughts can loosen their grip. For now, stay with the courtyard. Stay with the pool. Let the surface grow smoother in your mind, as if every worry were a small ripple settling. And if tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. For now, you can simply rest here with Eridu and its gentle water as the night grows thicker and kinder around you. You remain in the temple courtyard a little longer, letting the dark pool hold the sky in its quiet surface, and then, without any urgency, you begin to move. Not quickly, not with purpose that feels sharp, only with the gentle instinct that sometimes rises when the night is kind, the instinct to go a little deeper, to see what else is waiting in the stillness. A reed curtain hangs in a doorway to the side of the courtyard. It sways once as you approach, and the sound it makes is soft, like dry grass brushing against itself. When you pass through, the air changes. It becomes cooler, steadier, as if the walls have been saving the day's last warmth, and now release it slowly. Inside, the light is low. An oil lamp sits in a shallow niche. Its flame is steady, not dramatic, just enough to turn the brickwork honey-colored, just enough to make the shadows feel friendly. The corridor smells faintly of clay and smoke. and beneath that, something clean and mineral, like water moving over stone. You can let your breath match the corridor's pace. Inhale as you step, exhale as you settle. The temple's rooms are simple. They do not shout. They guide you with small cues. A slightly wider doorway, a smoother patch of floor where many feet have passed, a cool draft that hints at an inner chamber. And somewhere, deeper still, you sense the idea that drew you here, the idea of Enki's dwelling beneath the water. In the old telling, Enki is not a god of storms or conquest. He is a god of fresh water and careful intelligence, the kind of intelligence that builds rather than breaks. His home in the Apsu is sometimes described like a palace, but tonight it feels more like a workshop, a place where wisdom is made slowly, as if it were a craft. So you imagine a room beneath the temple, not reached by ladders or dramatic stairs, but reached by the mind's gentle descent. A few steps down, another step. The sound of the city becomes distant. Even your own thoughts begin to sound far away, as though they are speaking from another room. Down here, the air is cool and lightly damp, the way cellars feel on summer nights. The walls are stone, smooth with age. Water does not rush, it rests. It is present in the same way silence is present, quietly supportive. In the center of this imagined workshop, there is a table, low, sturdy, worn by time. On it, you see simple tools, a reed stylus, a small bowl, a flat board dusted with fine clay powder. Nothing is decorative. Everything is meant for patient hands. And as you stand in this calm place, you receive a soft discovery, one that does not arrive like news, but like understanding. The Sumerians told of humans shaped from clay and mixed with water, and then given life by breath. In some versions, that breath is described as something sacred, something like a gentle wind placed inside the body, turning earth into a living being. It's a myth, yes, but it is also a beautiful metaphor for tonight, because you too are clay and water and breath. Your bones are Earth's minerals. Your blood is a moving river. Your breath is the quiet force that keeps returning. So if you feel tired, if you feel worn by the day, it may help to remember you were made for renewal. You were made to soften again. In this workshop, Enki does not command. He listens to the slow drip of water. He listens to the way clay responds to touch. He listens to the way a thought becomes calmer when it is shaped into something simple. And somewhere nearby, still within the temple, still within Eridu, there is another workshop, one made not of myth, but of daily life. The Scribal House, a quiet room where students learn to press marks into clay tablets, line by line, without hurry. The ancient school is sometimes called an Eduba, the tablet house, and you can imagine it tonight like a warm pocket of light inside a larger darkness. You step toward it in your mind. The room is modest. Wooden shelves line the walls. Some tablets are drying, some already dry and stacked. A bowl of water sits near the door, used to soften clay when it needs to be worked again. A teacher speaks in a low voice and the students answer softly, as if they are afraid to wake the night. The sound that fills the room is gentle, the faint tap of stylus on clay, a rhythm like small raindrops. Tick, tick, tick. If you have ever listened to someone write in a notebook late at night, you know how calming that sound can be. It is the sound of order being made. And here comes another small, soothing thought. These marks on clay were not made for speed. They were made for steadiness. In a world where water could change everything, steadiness was precious. A canal needed regular care. A field needed patient attention. A memory needed a place to rest. So people learn to make their lives rhythmic. They learn to guide water with ditches and channels, not by fighting it, but by inviting it into paths. And they learn to guide thought the same way, by giving it lines, symbols, and gentle boundaries. If your mind has been wandering tonight, you can treat it like water. No scolding, no force. Just guide it back, quietly, toward the path of the story. Outside the temple, beyond these rooms, the canals of Eridu stretch into the dark. You can picture them now under starlight, narrow ribbons of black water, edged with pale mud, moving so slowly that motion is almost invisible. The fields rest, the reeds stand like thin silhouettes, and somewhere a frog calls once, then stops, as if even the animals respect the hour. You might even picture in the earlier hours of the evening a small group of canal keepers walking with lamps along the banks. Their work is not harsh in this telling, it is almost tender. One person carries a simple wooden shovel, another holds a bundle of reeds to patch a weak spot in the wall. They pause, they listen, they watch the water's surface for signs of where it wants to press. When they find a place that needs care, they do not fight the water. They guide it the way you might guide a child back toward a safe path, patiently, without anger. A little mud is pressed into a gap. A reed bundle is tucked in. The water accepts the new shape and continues. If you have been carrying stress, you can borrow that image. Notice one small place inside you that feels like a leak. Some worry that keeps seeping, some thought that keeps circling. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You can patch one small gap with something gentle. A slower breath, a softer jaw, a kinder sentence in your mind. The canal keepers move on. Their lamps make small circles of light on the ground. Insects drift through the glow. Somewhere bread cools and smoke thins into stars above. And the guided water becomes a quiet promise. Tomorrow the fields will drink. Tomorrow the city will wake and life will continue. The people of Eridu would have known the sky well. On clear nights, they could watch the stars shift season after season and feel time moving without clocks. It is possible that they aligned sacred spaces with the heavens, not as a trick, but as comfort, a way of saying the world has a rhythm and we belong to it. Above, stars. Below, water. Between, breath. This simple axis, water and sky and the quiet human body, can steady you tonight. So let's make it a small practice, gentle and optional. If you like, imagine a star above you, one steady point of light. Imagine the Apsu below you, one steady pool of coolness, and imagine your breath in between moving softly like a bridge. Inhale, as if drawing light down. Exhale, as if sending calm downward. Again, no effort, just imagery. And as you continue through the temple's inner quiet, you begin to sense another concept that the Sumerians held dear. The idea that civilization is made of small gifts, small principles, small crafts, small forms of care. Some later texts speak of me, the divine ordinances, patterns that shape human life, music, craftsmanship, wise speech, ritual, honest measure. It is an old way of saying that life becomes gentler when it has a few simple structures. Tonight you do not need a long list, you only need the feeling of it. A life can be soothed by small principles, a cup of water, a clean floor, a kind word, a slow breath, a light kept low. In the workshop beneath the water, these are the kinds of things Enki would understand. Quiet strengths, not loud victories. And now, as the night deepens, a mild curiosity begins to glow at the edge of your mind, like a lantern behind a curtain. If the temple keeps a pool to remember Apsu, and the scribal room keeps tablets to remember time, what does your own life keep quietly to help you remember peace? Maybe it is a song you return to. Maybe it is the feeling of clean sheets, Maybe it is a certain scent, tea, rain, wood, soap. Maybe it is the way your breath sounds when you finally let it slow. You don't have to decide, you can simply let the question rest beside you like a small warm stone in your pocket. Because our story is about to widen again, the way water widens when a canal opens into a broader stretch. In the next part, we will follow the flow outward, from the temple rooms to the canals, from the quiet school to the fields, from the mythic workshop beneath the water to the human work of guiding water across the plain. And as we go, everything will remain gentle. No drama, no sharp turns, only the slow, steady motion of water and the soft, steady return of breath. The city's center is quiet now, and the temple has begun to feel like a warm lantern behind you, steady, low, and safe. You step back through the reed curtain, returning to the open air, where the night has deepened into a gentle blue-black, and the stars look calmer, as if they too have slowed. Outside, Eridu is settling into sleep. A door closes softly, a fire dims, a pot is covered with a lid that makes a small, comforting sound. Somewhere a last conversation dissolves into whispers, and then even those whispers fade into the soft, ordinary hush of a living place at rest. You begin to walk, unhurried, toward the edge of the city where the canals carry their slow reflections. The ground beneath your feet is packed earth, warm from the day, but cooling quickly. You can feel that cooling as a kind of kindness, like the world lowering its voice. A faint scent of dampness rises near the water, mixing with the dry sweetness of reeds. In the distance, a nightbird calls once, and the sound travels far because nothing interrupts it. The canal appears beside you like a dark ribbon. It is not wide, not dramatic, just a patient line of water, guided by human hands and held in place by small walls of mud and reed. The surface is almost still. It does not glitter loudly, it only carries the faintest shimmer of starlight, as if the sky has leaned down to rest its face on the water. You walk along the bank, and the story begins to widen. Because this is how the ancient world here truly breathed, not through sudden monuments or loud moments, but through water moving in quiet agreement with the land. The canal is a road that does not need wheels. It is a sentence that keeps writing itself across the plain, night after night, season after season. If you let your mind drift, you can imagine the path of the water. Long before it reaches this canal, it begins in the unseen coolness below, in the Apsu, the sweetness beneath foundations, the hidden reservoir the old stories spoke about. Then it rises into wells and springs. It gathers into channels. It is lifted in small buckets. It slips into ditches and becomes a canal. It moves outward, widening, dividing, returning. The more you follow it, the more you feel the gentle truth the Sumerians lived with. Water is time. Not time as a schedule, not time as a pressure, but time as a flow. A slow arriving, a slow leaving, a return. Along the canal, you see places where the bank has been patched. Bundles of reeds are pressed into the mud, firm but soft. The work is humble, and that humility makes it soothing. You can picture the people who do this work, neighbors, family members, quiet caretakers, walking here at dawn or dusk with simple tools. They do not fight the water, they listen for where it presses, they notice where the mud has thinned, they add what is needed, and then they step back and let the water accept the new shape. In the night, the canal sounds almost like breathing. A tiny lap against the bank, a faint slide over silt, then stillness again. And if you have been holding tension, you might feel your own body recognizing the rhythm. as if something in you has always known that calm is not the absence of movement, but movement that is gentle and steady. You continue, and the city's lights grow fewer behind you. Ahead, the land opens into fields, flat, wide, quietly resting under stars. The air here feels different. It is cooler and more open, with the scent of wet soil and plants that drink at night. Somewhere out in the dark, you imagine a farmer sleeping in a small house of mud brick, a reed mat over the doorway. The day's work has left his hands rough and his shoulders heavy, but his sleep is deep because he trusts the canal. He trusts that the water will arrive in its time, that the small gates will hold, that the field will drink. Trust is a gentle thing. It is the opposite of the day's anxious checking. It is the ability to let something be, to let the world do what it has always done. In ancient Mesopotamia, trust was also built patiently through cooperation. Canals needed more than one person. They required a shared rhythm, clearing silt, repairing banks, opening and closing small channels so that water could reach one field without stealing from another. You can sense how this would shape a community's heart. Not through loud rules, but through repeated acts of care. The same way a family becomes a family, through small nightly rituals, washing dishes, folding towels, turning off lights, checking that everyone is inside. If your modern life has made you feel alone in your stress, you can let this image comfort you. People once found peace by tending water together. And perhaps you too have someone somewhere, near or far, who would help tend your life's canal if you let them. The canal curves and you follow. As you walk, your thoughts may drift toward the idea of memory. The Sumerians pressed memory into clay, but they also pressed it into landscape. Every canal is a record. Every bend is a decision made long ago. Every patch of reed in the bank is a note that says, someone noticed, someone cared. The night sky above is quiet and vast. The stars look like small holes in a dark cloth, letting light through from somewhere behind. You might notice that your breathing has naturally slowed, and if it hasn't, you can invite it to softly. Inhale, and imagine the water drawing inward. Exhale, and imagine it spreading outward. Calm. You pass a small junction where a narrower channel branches off toward a field. A wooden gate rests there, simple and sturdy. In the daytime, someone would lift it, letting water slide through. Tonight, it is closed, and the water waits with no complaint. Waiting like that is an ancient skill. It is also a sleep skill. Your mind can learn it too. Not every thought needs to be followed tonight. Not every worry needs to be solved. Some things can be held behind a gate and returned tomorrow. As you walk farther, the temple is now only a dim shape behind you, a low silhouette against the darker horizon. And it occurs to you quietly that the temple itself is made of layers. In Eridu, sacred buildings were rebuilt again and again, new bricks placed over old floors as generations renewed the same spot with the same reverence. That means that under the place where the pool reflects the stars, there are older pools. Under the present courtyard, there are older courtyards. Under your imagined footsteps, there are centuries of footsteps, stacked like pages in a book. It is not a haunting thought. It is a comforting one, because it means time does not erase. Time layers, and you too are layered. You are made of mornings and nights, of years that changed you gently, of tiny moments you no longer remember, but that still shaped your way of breathing, your way of trusting, your way of returning home. Sometimes anxiety makes us feel as if everything is fragile, as if one hard day could break the whole structure. But the image of Eridu's layered temple offers another truth. We are sturdier than we think. we keep rebuilding. We keep laying bricks of ordinary life, one meal, one conversation, one quiet night at a time. And tonight, you are laying a brick called rest. The canal continues to guide you, and now the water feels even more like a story. It has a beginning you cannot see, a middle you are walking beside, and an ending that will become new beginnings elsewhere, into fields, into rivers, back into the earth. The farther you go, the less you feel the need to hold anything tightly. A little farther on, you come to a place where the canal widens into a quiet basin, and the water becomes so smooth it looks like black glass. A reed boat is tied to a stake, rocking almost imperceptibly, as if it is dreaming. Its rope creaks once, a tiny sound, then rests again. Near the edge, you can see faint rings where a fish rose to the surface, kissed the air, and disappeared. Nothing here insists on attention. Everything simply continues. You imagine how, in the daylight, people would stand where you stand now, reading the water the way you read a face. Is it high or low? Is it clear or cloudy? Has silt gathered? Has the bank held? Their answers would not be shouted. They would be noted, remembered, perhaps even pressed into clay by someone with patient hands. And then with that quiet knowledge, they would go home, trusting the night to keep the water cool until morning. Your jaw loosens, your forehead smooths, your shoulders settle as if they have finally found a place to rest. And then, near the edge of a wider stretch of water, you notice something small and faint, nothing alarming, only curious. A glint that is not starlight, a soft shape beneath the surface, held in the dark like a secret kept gently. Perhaps it is a clay jar resting near the bank, partly submerged, its round shoulder catching a trace of lamp glow from far away. Or perhaps it is a tablet, sealed and tucked, where water stays cool, waiting for the right hands. You do not reach for it yet, you only notice it, and your curiosity wakes, not loudly, not sharply, just enough to keep you floating forward. Because in the next part of our journey we will come closer to what is kept in quiet places, the small principles, the gentle me, the gifts of order and craft that the old world believed could keep human life from falling apart. For now, you keep walking beside the canal, letting the water lead, and you let your breath follow like a small boat carried by a calm current. The glint you noticed does not demand you. It waits with the same patience as water itself, held under the surface, where the night keeps things cool. You stay on the bank for a moment, letting your eyes soften. The canal is wide here, and the air above it feels smoother, as if the water has polished the darkness. Somewhere behind you, the city sleeps. Somewhere ahead, the fields rest. Between them, the canal carries its quiet thought. When you finally step closer, you do it slowly, the way you might approach a sleeping animal, careful not to startle the calm. The mud at the edge is firm, still warm in places, but cooling fast. Your foot finds a flatter stone. You kneel and the world narrows to simple sensations. The coolness rising from the water, the faint scent of reeds, the hush of insects that no longer buzz but drift like distant music. Just beneath the surface, the soft shape becomes clearer. It is a clay jar, half submerged, its mouth sealed with a stopper darkened by damp. Someone placed it here on purpose, in the cool shadow of the bank, where the water would keep it steady. The jar is not old in a tragic way. It is old in a tender way, like a tool that has been used kindly. You rest your hand on its shoulder and feel the fine grain of fired clay. It is smooth where fingers have touched it before. It is rougher near the base, where silt has kissed it again and again. The jar does not feel like a mystery meant to excite you. It feels like a quiet message meant to comfort you. You lift it gently, and water slides off in thin sheets, returning to the canal with a soft sigh. The rope that once held the jar is gone, but the jar itself seems content to be carried. You set it on the bank and ease the stopper free. Inside, wrapped in reed fibers, there is a small clay tablet, flat, palm-sized, and surprisingly light. The night holds its breath with you. You do not need to read the marks clearly, you only need to sense what they are. Careful impressions made with a stylus, pressed into soft clay when the clay was still willing. A record, a reminder, a little piece of order resting in darkness. This is the gentle discovery the story has been preparing for. In the world of Eridu, the deepest magic was not thunder or fire. It was the ability to shape a life with quiet principles, repeatable, human-sized, calming. The Sumerians had a way of describing such principles, sometimes spoken of as me, the divine ordinances, the gifts of culture and civilization. Not laws in a harsh sense, but patterns, like grooves in wood that guide the hand, like channels in earth that guide the water. You can imagine Enki in his workshop beneath the water, crafting these me the way a potter shapes bowls. Slowly, evenly, with attention. He does not throw them into the world like weapons. He places them into human life like seeds. A seed of music, so the heart can soften. A seed of weaving, so hands can make warmth. A seed of honest measure, so trade can feel fair. A seed of wise speech, so conflict can dissolve before it grows teeth. A seed of ritual, so the day has a gentle rhythm. A seed of craftsmanship, so the world becomes more beautiful through patience. And suddenly the canal beside you seems like one of those ordinances made visible, a principle you can touch, a proof that life can be guided without being forced. If you are listening in bed tonight, you might feel the same quiet truth inside your own routines. The small acts you repeat, making tea, folding laundry, locking the door, turning down the lights, are also me in a modern sense. Tiny patterns that tell your nervous system, you are safe, you are home, you can soften now. You hold the tablet near the starlight and imagine what it might say. Perhaps it is a simple note from a canal keeper to a scribe. The bank held after the last repair. Perhaps it is a list of names, a record of who worked where, not as a control, but as a gratitude. People remembered because they helped the water arrive. Or perhaps it is a hymn, quiet and practical at once, thanking Enki for fresh springs beneath dry land. However you imagine it, the feeling remains the same. Steadiness can be written down, calm can be preserved, and that thought, calm can be preserved, may be the most soothing discovery of all. On nights like this, you can imagine a young musician sitting near a doorway in Eridu, not performing, just playing a few notes on a simple reed flute. The sound is thin and sweet, barely lifting above the canal's hush. It doesn't ask for attention, it only gives the air a gentle shape. A neighbor pauses, smiles without speaking, then continues home. A child, half asleep, leans against a warm wall and lets the notes pass through them like a slow breeze. The rhythm is simple: rise, fall, rest. Music, in this quiet sense, is not entertainment. It is shelter, one of the me that teaches a mind how to soften. When it ends, silence feels kinder, deeper, and more inviting, because so much of modern stress feels like evaporation. We work, we hurry, we consume, and by night we feel as if all the gentleness has steamed away. But the ancient world offers another image, a jar kept cool at the edge of water, holding a tablet of order, waiting for hands that are ready. You set the tablet back into the jar, not to hide it, but to keep it safe as if you are returning a thought to a quiet place in yourself. Then you look up, and the stars are brighter now. The sky has settled into its deepest velvet. The water holds the stars with such calm devotion that the reflection looks like a second sky below. Above and below, the universe is mirrored. Between them, you breathe, inhale, and let the breath feel like fresh water entering a well. Exhale, and let it feel like water smoothing itself after a ripple. You begin to walk again, carrying the jar for a little while, feeling its weight as a grounding presence. Each step is slow. Each step is quiet. The canal keeps you company. The reed beds whisper. Somewhere a small animal moves in the grass, then stills. Nothing is urgent. In your mind's eye, you return for a moment to the temple courtyard and its dark pool. You imagine the caretakers there, keeping the lamp wicks trimmed, keeping the water clean, keeping the silence intact. That too is a gentle ordinance, the practice of tending stillness. And then you imagine the scribal house again, where students learn patience by pressing one mark at a time. That too is a the practice of making order slowly without panic. And then the fields, sleeping under stars, trusting the canal. That too is a the practice of trust, the quiet decision to stop gripping what cannot be controlled. You realize with a soft warmth that civilization in this telling is not a loud achievement. It is a lullaby made of small competencies. A life becomes kinder when it is shaped by simple, repeatable care. If tonight's story is touching something tender in you, you can let it touch gently. You do not need to analyze. You can just receive the feeling the way dry land receives water, slowly, deeply, without argument. And now a question rises as gentle as the earlier one, meant only to keep you company. What is one small pattern in your life that helps you feel safe? One tiny you return to without thinking? Maybe it is the way you wash your hands and feel the water. Maybe it is the way you arrange your pillow. Maybe it is the way you choose a quiet story and let it carry you. Whatever it is, you can honor it tonight. It is not trivial. It is a canal in your inner landscape. As you walk, the jar in your hands begins to feel like a lantern that does not shine outward, but inward. It reminds you that calm is something you can store, something you can return to. A breath saved, a thought softened, a moment of kindness preserved. At the edge of the fields, you find a low wooden gate where a narrow channel meets the main canal. The gate is closed. The water waits, smooth and patient. You set the jar down on the bank and rest your hand on the wood. It is cool, slightly damp. The gate feels like a symbol, the place where you decide what enters the night. Tonight, you can keep the gate closed to the day. You can keep the gate open only for what is gentle. The stars above seem to agree. Their light is old, traveling quietly, arriving without hurry. The canal below agrees too, continuing its slow movement, carrying time in a way that does not bruise you. And then, as you stand there with your hand on the gate, you notice something else, something even softer than the jar's discovery. Across the field, faintly lit by starlight, there is a path leading back toward the temple. Along that path, at even intervals, small stone markers rise from the earth, low, rounded, almost like stepping stones but set upright. They look like the beginning of a descent, as if someone once used them to count steps, to measure a slow journey downward, not downward into danger, downward into quiet. Your curiosity stirs again, but it is the kind of curiosity that makes you yawn rather than tense. It feels like being invited into a cooler room. You leave the jar where it belongs, near the water's edge, and you begin to follow the star-lit path toward those stones, ready to learn how the ancient world imagined letting go, one gentle step at a time. The path across the field is faint, but it knows where it is going. It is the kind of path that doesn't need signs because it has been walked so many times that the earth remembers the shape of a foot. Under starlight, it looks like a pale ribbon laid gently over dark soil. The air is cooler here than it was beside the canal, and the coolness feels clean, like water poured into a cup and left to settle. You walk slowly, and the world seems to widen. Behind you, the canal continues its patient work, carrying time in a quiet line. Ahead, the low silhouette of the temple returns to view, like a familiar thought you are glad to meet again. Around you, the fields sleep, their furrows softened by darkness, their plants drinking in the night's humidity as if the sky itself were offering them a gentle sip. And along this path, just as you noticed, there are small stones set upright, rounded markers, each one no higher than your knee, each one spaced like a soft rhythm. One stone, then another. They do not look like warnings, they look like reminders. They make you think of something old and simple, the way a journey can be measured not by distance, but by what you release along the way. You come to the first stone and pause. Its surface is cool when you touch it, slightly rough like fired clay. It holds the night's chill and gives it back without resistance. Above, a thin cloud passes over the stars, turning their light into a muted shimmer, and for a moment, the whole sky looks like brushed silk. If you like, you can take a slow breath here. Inhale, quietly. Exhale, as if you are letting your shoulders melt by a single degree. In some ancient stories from this land, there is a gentle motif of passing through gates, moving from the busy world into a deeper world, step by step. One famous tale speaks of a goddess descending through 7 gates, leaving something behind at each one, becoming lighter as she goes. Tonight, we don't need the loud parts of any myth. We only need the soft shape of the idea, a descent that is also a release, a journey inward where you carry less and less. So these stones can be your 7 quiet gates, not a test, not a challenge, just an invitation to set down what you no longer need to hold for the night. At the first stone, you imagine setting down the day's noise, the leftover conversations, the headlines, the bright rectangles of screens, the little pings that trained your attention to jump. You don't have to fight them. You can simply place them on the stone the way you might place a coat on a chair. Let them rest there. At the second stone you set down hurry, the feeling that you should be faster, better, more efficient, more complete. The secret pressure that says you must earn rest. You place that pressure down too, and the stone does not judge it. It simply holds it, cool and silent. At the third stone, you set down worry about tomorrow. Not because tomorrow doesn't matter, but because tomorrow is not required right now. Tomorrow will arrive on its own schedule, the way water arrives in a canal, slowly, inevitably, without your muscles tightening to pull it closer. You exhale, and the thought of tomorrow becomes softer at the edges. At the fourth stone, you set down the heaviness of self-criticism. The voice that replays what you should have said, what you should have done, what you should have been. You can place that voice down with tenderness as if it is tired too. Even your inner critic is often just a frightened part of you trying to keep you safe. Tonight, it can rest. At the fifth stone, you set down the need to understand everything. This is a gift you can give your mind. You don't have to solve the myth. You don't have to untangle history into neat certainty. You can let the story be like water, meaningful without being pinned down. At the sixth stone, you set down the tension in the body, not all at once, just enough to notice. You might relax the space behind your eyes. You might let your jaw unclench. You might allow your hands to fall open, palms resting as if they trust the bed beneath them. You might soften the belly, letting it rise and fall without being held in. Inhale, slow, exhale, long. At the seventh stone, you set down the last small thing you were still gripping. Maybe it's a task, maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a name you keep turning over. You don't have to identify it clearly, you can just feel the shape of it and let it go the way a leaf lets go of a branch when it is ready. The night receives it. When you finish, you stand very quietly and you notice what remains. Breath, cool air, starlight, a steady heart. You feel lighter, not in a dramatic way, but in a real way, like taking off shoes that were too tight and realizing you had gotten used to the pressure. The temple is closer now. You can see the faint outline of its courtyard wall. You can imagine the sacred pool inside, holding its dark reflection of the sky, still and faithful. You can almost smell the oil lamps, warm smoke and quiet. You can almost hear the reed curtain whispering in the doorway. And as you walk, you begin to understand a gentle truth the old stories keep returning to. Wisdom isn't always a revelation. Sometimes it is simply the practice of returning. Returning to water. Returning to breath. Returning to a place that remembers how to be still. You step into the temple courtyard again, and the pool is there exactly as before, as if it never moved while you were away. The surface is smooth and the stars float in it like sleeping lanterns. A single lamp glows near the edge, its light low and kind. You kneel and you look into the water. If your mind wants to wander, let it wander softly. The pool will not chase it. The pool will simply keep reflecting. And now another quiet discovery arrives, so small it almost feels like a whisper. The ancient people of Eridu did not separate the sacred from the practical. The same water that filled a canal also filled a ritual bowl. The same clay used for bricks also held the marks of a poem. The same breath that kept a worker alive also carried a prayer. In other words, peace was not a special event. Peace was something you could practice in ordinary materials: water, clay, light, breath. You look around the courtyard as if your eyes are learning to see in the dark. A corner of the wall holds a small shelf with a bowl of water. Beside it, a bundle of reeds rests in a clay jar, their tips frayed from use. Nothing here is extravagant. The beauty is in the way each object seems to have a purpose, and the way purpose itself becomes soothing. A caretaker passes through soundless. Their robe brushes the brick with a faint shh, and they carry a broom made of bound reeds. They sweep in slow arcs, not to erase the day, but to make the ground ready for quiet. Dust gathers, then disappears into a small pile, then is lifted away. Watching this, you may feel the same urge inside your own mind, to sweep gently, without judgment, without drama, just enough to clear a space. From another room comes the soft tapping you remember, the stylus on clay. Tick, tick, tick. It is not fast. It is not urgent. It is the sound of a person shaping thought into something that can rest. The lamp in that room is turned low, so low that the light barely reaches the doorway, and yet it is enough. It is always enough. You imagine the tablet house at this hour, a student practicing a line, then pausing, then breathing, then pressing the next mark. The clay accepts each touch, the way water accepts a stone, making a ripple, then smoothing again, The student is learning what you are learning tonight. Progress can be gentle. A life does not have to be forced. If you are lying down as you listen, you might let your body become part of this courtyard. And if a thought rises, something unfinished, something bright, let it float on the surface for a moment, then sink softly into the deeper water underneath. You can practice it too. You don't need to live in a temple city. You only need a few gentle anchors, a dim room, a slower exhale, a story that does not demand you. Here, no one rests alone. Every listener in their own room and in their own night is doing the same simple thing, letting the world become quieter. If this story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself. Something small, like a pebble placed on a stone, a marker that says, "I was here. I softened. I returned." Now, as we prepare to drift even deeper, you can imagine Enki's workshop again beneath the water, not as a place you must reach, but as a metaphor for your own inner calm, cool, orderly, patient. You can take one more breath, slow and easy. Inhale, as if drawing fresh water up from deep earth. Exhale, as if letting it spread through the body, smoothing everything it touches. In the next part, we will linger with the pool and the tablets and the slow making of knowledge, and we will let one more gentle truth rise to the surface, that the most beautiful things often arrive in silence, and stay because we make room for them. For now, let the water be still. Let the stars be steady. Let your eyelids feel heavy in the kindest way. The courtyard stays with you like a warm after-image. Even when you turn your attention away from the pool, you can still feel it, its dark, calm surface, holding the stars as if the night itself had decided to rest. The air is cooler now, and the lamp's glow seems softer, as though the flame has learned the hour and lowered its voice. Somewhere beyond the wall, Eridu sleeps. The canals continue their slow, faithful work. The fields lie quiet under a sky that looks endless and patient. And inside the temple, in a room where the light is always kept low, the tablet house is awake. Not awake in a bright way, awake in a gentle way, like a person who cannot yet sleep, but is no longer anxious, only calm and a little thoughtful and comforted by the hush. You follow the faint, tapping sound through a corridor that smells of clay and smoke. The reed curtain at the doorway sways aside with the smallest sigh. When you step in, you feel as if you've entered a pocket of warmth inside a larger night. The room is simple, a few wooden shelves, a low bench, a shallow bowl of water, small lumps of clay wrapped in damp cloth so they remain soft, a lamp tucked into a niche so its light falls downward, not outward, and in the center, a table where someone sits with their shoulders relaxed and their hands steady. The scribe does not look up at first. They do not need to. They already know you've arrived. In the same way, a quiet room knows when a new breath enters it. Tick, tick, tick. The stylus touches the clay with a rhythm that feels older than urgency. Each impression is small, deliberate, and patient, like footsteps in wet sand. The scribe pauses every few mark, not because they are unsure, but because they are respectful. Respectful of the material, respectful of the thought, respectful of time. If your mind has been carrying too much, you may notice how soothing it is to watch someone do one thing at a time. One mark, one breath, one mark, one breath. The scribe finally lifts their eyes and offers a small nod, the kind of greeting that doesn't disturb the air. Their face is calm, lit from below by the lamp, and their expression suggests something like quiet companionship. In your imagination, they do not have to be young or old. They can be anyone who has learned the comfort of repetition, anyone who knows that the world becomes softer when you stop trying to hold everything inside your head. They slide the tablet toward you, not as a lesson, but as an invitation. The clay is still damp. The marks glisten slightly in the lamplight. You can't read them, and you don't need to. You can simply see that the marks exist, that something has been placed somewhere safe. And the scribe seems to be saying, without words, this is what we do when the world is wide and the mind feels small. We make a place for thought to rest. You sit on the bench, and the wood is smooth from years of use. Your body settles as naturally as a boat settling into still water. The room holds you with its quiet boundaries. No bright corners, no sharp noises, only warm darkness and the slow pulse of a lamp. On the shelf beside you are tablets that have dried. Some are stacked neatly, edge to edge. Some lean like books. Some are wrapped in cloth. When you look closely, you see tiny variations. One tablet's surface slightly rough, another polished by a careful thumb, another with a small crack repaired with new clay. These are not relics in the museum sense. They are familiar objects. They remind you that people long ago had the same desire you may have tonight, to keep what matters from slipping away. On the nearest shelf, one tablet sits alone, its edges rounded by handling. It might have once tracked barley or a bundle of reeds, but what catches you is a thumbprint pressed into one corner, accidental and permanent. You imagine the maker pausing, noticing it, and choosing to let it stay. It feels like a small human signature, more intimate than any name. For a moment you sense how close these people are. They too had tired hands, quiet pride, and evenings when they wanted simplicity. The lamp makes their thumbprint shine like a gentle star. The scribe reaches for a fresh lump of clay and kneads it slowly, folding it into itself, pressing out the air, softening it the way you might soften stiff hands with warm water. Then they place it on the table and flatten it into a small rectangle, smoothing the edges with the side of their palm. They do it the way a person makes a bed, calmly, without anger, with care. And as you watch, a soft discovery rises like light coming up from water. Writing in its earliest form is not a shout, it is a whisper that learned to stay. It began as a way to remember small things, water, grain, measures, names, not to control the night, but to make the day gentler, to reduce confusion, to share responsibility, to say quietly, this is what we have, this is what we need, this is what we promised. When you see it this way, writing becomes a kind of kindness, a way of lowering the mental load, a way of making room for breath. The scribe presses a new mark into the clay, then another, then another. The rhythm is steady, and it begins to feel like a lullaby made of small taps. Tick, tick, tick. You notice your own breath matching it. Inhale on a pause, exhale on a tap. If you'd like, you can let your breathing become very simple here. No counting, no forcing, just the sense that each exhale leaves a little more space behind. The scribe gestures toward the bowl of water. You dip your fingers in and the coolness feels clean. It washes away nothing dramatic, just a thin layer of dust, just the idea of the day. When you lift your hand, water beads on your skin like tiny, quiet stars. The scribe smiles barely. Then they press the stylus into the clay again, and you realize something else. The ancient world loved water because water returns, and they loved clay because clay remembers. Water moves, carries, changes. Clay holds, keeps, stays. Between them, human life found balance. Between them, you can find balance too. If you have been feeling scattered, perhaps you can borrow the clay's skill to hold one thing gently without squeezing it. a single thought, a single gratitude, a single image that comforts you. The scribe sets the new tablet aside to dry and reaches for an older one, already hardened, already light. They place it in your hands. It is warm from the room, but the edges are cool. The surface is smooth in places and textured in others like a small landscape. You turn it slightly in the lamp's glow and the marks cast tiny shadows. They look like little ridges on a quiet path. They look like an agreement with time. And now the scribe speaks, but their voice is low, almost blended into the room. They speak of Enki not as a distant god, but as the spirit of careful making. They speak of the Apsu not as a myth to prove, but as a reminder that beneath everything there is still a depth. They tell you that a good life is built the way a tablet is made, from common material shaped with patience, pressed slowly, dried quietly, stored safely, returned to when needed. And as you listen, you might remember a moment from your own life, perhaps writing a note for yourself, perhaps folding a letter, perhaps keeping a small object in a drawer, as if it were a promise. The details don't need to be clear, the feeling is enough. The scribe sets the old tablet back on the shelf. And then they lift a small reed bundle and brush the table clean with gentle strokes. Shh, shh. The sound is like wind in grass. It makes you want to close your eyes. Outside, the night continues. Inside, the room remains a warm pocket, steady and dim. The lamp flame barely moves. The bowl of water holds a quiet reflection. The clay rests, waiting to dry, and you begin to sense what this place is offering you tonight. Not information, not a list of facts, but a method, a way of becoming lighter. If thoughts circle in your mind, you can place them on an imaginary tablet and set them on a shelf until morning. If emotions feel heavy, you can imagine them sinking gently into Apsu, the cool depth that holds everything without struggle. If your body feels tight, you can let the rhythm of the stylus tick, 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 guide your breath into a slower current. The scribe pauses and looks at you again, as if checking only one thing. Are you beginning to soften? And because the answer is yes, because your shoulders are lower and your eyes are heavier and your breath is smoother, the room seems to grow quieter still, as if it is pleased. In the corner, a tablet dries. In the courtyard, a pool reflects stars. Beyond the walls, canals shine faintly. And under everything, the Apsu remains, cool, sweet, and still. There are secrets that do not need to be solved. They only need to be sat beside. So tonight, sit beside this quiet room in your mind. Let the tapping fade into the distance. Let the lamp become softer. Let your eyelids feel like they are being gently pulled down by gravity, not by effort. And when you are ready, we will drift back to the courtyard one more time to let water and starlight and breath close the circle. Wide sky above, deep calm below, and you in the middle, finally letting go. When you leave the tablet house, you do it the way you leave a warm room after a long day. Slowly, reluctantly, and with gratitude that does not need words. The reed curtain falls back into place behind you. The corridor receives you with cooler air, and the lamp glow grows softer as you move away. The tapping of the stylus fades until it becomes less a sound and more a memory of rhythm, something your breathing can still follow even when the room is no longer near. You return to the courtyard and the sacred pool is waiting. It is exactly as it was, and that is the comfort of it. The surface is smooth, dark and calm, holding the stars as if they were small, patient lanterns floating in ink. The lamp at the edge burns low, and its reflection stretches across the water in a thin line of gold, then breaks into a few trembling fragments, then settles again. Nothing here is in a hurry. If you are listening from bed tonight, You might imagine yourself kneeling at the pool's edge, not to do anything, not to achieve anything, only to be close to what is steady. You might feel the coolness on your face, the way night air touches skin more gently than daytime air. You might hear, far away, the faintest sound of the city breathing, a door settling on its hinge, a distant cough, then quiet again. And above, the sky opens wide. Stars hang there like quiet punctuation. They do not rush. They do not insist. They simply keep their place night after night, like a promise the universe keeps without making a speech about it. A thin cloud passes once, softening their edges, then slides on, leaving the stars clear again. It's easy to forget in modern life how calming it can be to see something that lasts. A schedule changes, messages arrive, plans shift. Even your mood can change like weather. But starlight and water, those feel older, more faithful. They remind you that not everything is urgent, and not everything is fragile. You let your gaze move from the stars above to the stars below, reflected in the pool. For a moment it feels as if you are standing between two skies, one overhead and one beneath your hands. And you are the bridge between them, breathing softly, alive in the middle of a quiet universe. Inhale, and let the inhale feel like lifting your face toward the sky. Exhale, and let the exhale feel like sinking your attention toward water. No counting, no effort, just a gentle motion like tide. The pool, in this moment, becomes more than a pool. It becomes a lesson that can be learned without study. The lesson is about time, not time as pressure, but time as layering. In Eridu, the temple was rebuilt again and again across generations, each new level resting upon the old. Bricks over bricks, floors over floors, like pages added to a book without tearing out the earlier chapters. The city, too, grew in layers, a new wall beside an old wall, a repaired canal bank over yesterday's mud, a new mat laid over a worn threshold. Time here is not a knife that cuts things away. Time is a hand that stacks things gently. When you look into the pool, you see reflections, and reflections are also layers. As the star is above, the reflection is below, and between them is the water's depth, unseen but present. In the same way, your life contains layers: the person you were at 20, the person you were at 30, the person you became after a difficult season, the person you became after love, after loss, after recovery. Those versions don't disappear, they settle into you like silt, settling to the bottom of calm water, forming a quiet landscape inside you, soft hills of memory, gentle valleys of habit, and a deep place where your truest self can rest. Some layers are tender, a laugh you still remember, the smell of a kitchen late at night, a song that once carried you home. Some layers are heavy, a worry that followed you for years, a season you survived, a goodbye that took time to accept. But in the stillness even the heavy layers can stop stirring. They can rest where they are, no longer clouding the surface. This is why rest can feel healing. Rest lets the layers settle. In this courtyard, that settling feels almost visible. The lamp stays low, the pool stays still, and you can sense why the old stories spoke of gentle ordinances, small patterns that keep life from scattering. Tonight, your own ordinances can be simple: a slower exhale, a softer brow, the decision to stop scrolling for answers, the choice to let one kind image repeat in your mind like a lullaby. Even this story, arriving in a steady rhythm, can be one of them. A small, dependable canal that leads you back to quiet. If your mind has been churned by the day, sleep is the moment when the water grows still again, and what was cloudy becomes clear. You don't have to force clarity. You only have to allow stillness. A caretaker crosses the courtyard, moving slowly, carrying a small bowl. They kneel at the pool's edge and dip the bowl into the water, lifting it carefully as though carrying a piece of night. They walk with it to a shelf in the corner, where another small bowl waits. The transfer is quiet, reverent, and simple. Water from the sacred pool, placed somewhere it can be used. The gesture feels like a mirror of what you are doing right now. You are taking a little calm from the story and placing it somewhere inside yourself where it can be used. Maybe tomorrow will be busy. Maybe tomorrow will be heavy. But the calm you collect tonight can travel with you, like water carried in a bowl, ready when you need it. As you watch the caretaker, you remember the idea of Apsu again, the sweetness beneath the world. The pool in the courtyard is a surface reminder, but the Apsu is deeper. It is the principle that beneath noise there is still a quiet place. Beneath the mind's movement there is still a resting layer. Beneath the day there is still the night. If you like, you can ask yourself gently, with no need to answer aloud, what does my own Apsu feel like? Maybe it feels like cool sheets. Maybe it feels like the hum of a fan. Maybe it feels like a certain kind of silence, a hush that arrives when you stop trying. Maybe it feels like a memory, driving at night with no traffic, or sitting near water, or reading under a lamp while the rest of the house sleeps. Whatever rises is enough. You don't have to hold it tightly. Let it hover like breath on cold glass, then fade, then return whenever you need it in the coming days. The pool stays still, and the stars keep their places. The temple walls hold shadow like soft fabric. The lamp continues to burn without flicker, as if the flame has learned how to be calm. You notice that your body is learning too. Your shoulders have dropped. Your brow has smoothed. Your hands feel heavier, more relaxed. Your breathing has slowed into a deeper, kinder rhythm. It might be helpful, just once, to make your exhale slightly longer than your inhale, not forced, just a subtle invitation. Inhale, soft. Exhale, slower. Again, inhale like cool air entering a quiet room. Exhale like a curtain settling into place. As the minutes pass, you begin to sense that the story is circling toward a simple truth. The most beautiful things often arrive in silence. The canal doesn't announce itself, it simply carries. The tablet doesn't shout. It simply holds. The pool doesn't glitter loudly, it simply reflects. Even the stars don't move in a way you can notice, from one breath to the next. And yet they travel, faithful and steady. And you, too, can travel like that, through change, through seasons, through hard days, without having to be loud about it. You can continue quietly. You can carry yourself the way water carries a reflection, gently, consistently, without strain. A breeze touches the pool and makes a small ripple. The stars in the water tremble for an instant, then the surface smooths again and the reflection returns. The moment is so small it might not matter, and yet it feels like an entire teaching. Even if something disturbs you, the calm can return. It might take a breath, it might take a night, it might take a season, but the reflection can come back. You let your eyes grow heavier. The courtyard, the pool, the lamp, the stars. Everything becomes a soft blur in the mind's vision, the way the world blurs when you are close to sleep. Before we drift further, I'll offer you a final gentle question for this part, one you can carry like a smooth stone. If you could place one thing from today onto the edge of the pool and leave it there overnight, what would it be? You do not need to choose perfectly. You can choose something small, a tense conversation, a worry about money, a feeling of not being enough, a task that still waits. Place it there in your imagination. Watch it become just an object, not a weight. Watch the water. Hold it without swallowing you. And then return to your breath. Inhale and feel the body supported. Exhale and feel the mind releasing. In the next part, we will let the story widen one last time, from the temple to the open plain, from Eridu to the broader night sky, and we will allow the final reflections to settle, about gratitude, about softness, about the way the past can be a lantern that does not blind you, only warms you. For now, stay at the pool. Let the stars remain steady, let the water remain calm, and let yourself drift a little closer to sleep, one quiet breath at a time. You stay by the pool until the idea of staying begins to feel unnecessary. Nothing is asking you to hold your attention anymore. The lamp is low, the water is still. The reflected stars have stopped trembling. Even your thoughts have learned to move more softly, as if they've remembered how to tiptoe. And then, with the same gentle inevitability as a tide turning, you feel drawn outward, out of the courtyard, out of the narrow rooms, out into the open night where Eridu rests on the edge of the plain like a quiet ember. You rise slowly, as if your body is made of warm sand, settling into shape. The brick under your feet is cool now. The air brushes your face like clean linen. You pass beneath the temple doorway and into the streets where most lamps have already been pinched down to their smallest glow. A few dogs sleep curled near thresholds. A reed mat hangs half closed, breathing with the breeze. Somewhere a baby stirs, then settles, and the sound is so small it feels like the night itself adjusting its blanket. You walk without urgency, letting your steps be as quiet as your breath. If you're listening from bed, you can imagine this walk as an inner walk. You don't have to picture every brick. You can simply feel what it's like to move from the center of your mind to its edges, from tight focus to wide calm. Soon the last houses thin out and the city opens into the plain. The horizon is a wide, patient curve. The sky feels even bigger out here, as if the temple walls were a gentle frame, and now the frame has been lifted away. Stars are everywhere, steady, indifferent in the kindest way. They do not rush to help you, but they also do not hurry you. They simply exist, and their existence is calming. A low wind passes through the grasses, and you hear a soft, traveling sound. Shh, shh. Like a broom sweeping a floor that never ends. The fields lie dark and quiet, their furrows barely visible, their edges softened by night. In the distance, you can make out the thin, faint shine of water. The canals are still there, even when you can't see them clearly, threaded through the land like slow sentences written in the dark. And under all of it, the deeper water remains, Apsu, the cool sweetness beneath the foundation of things. This is when a very gentle understanding settles over you. The ancient people did not imagine peace as an escape from the world. They imagined peace as a layer under the world, not a faraway heaven, not a reward after suffering, a layer, a depth, a quiet place you can return to no matter what the surface is doing. You stand on the plain and let that idea rest in you. If you like, you can place one hand on your chest or imagine doing so and feel the simple truth of your heartbeat. It is steady. It is working without asking you to manage it. Like water beneath earth, it continues. Inhale and notice how the inhale arrives. Exhale and notice how the exhale stays a little longer. You begin walking again, following a narrow path that angles toward the canals. The ground is firm, and the air carries that mineral smell again. Wet stone, damp clay, cool reeds. Your mind is quiet enough now to notice details without effort. The way a star's light seems to sharpen when you stop thinking. The way the wind changes when it passes a low wall. The way your own breath sounds different when you're no longer braced. Near the canal, you find a place where the bank slopes gently and the water widens into a slow, dark mirror. The surface reflects a cluster of stars, and the reflection is so clean, it looks like a doorway into another sky. You sit on the bank. The mud is cool and smooth. A reed leaf touches your sleeve, then lifts away. Somewhere, a fish rises and makes a small ring, then disappears. The ring widens, fades, and the water returns to stillness, and you realize that this is how the mind works too. A thought rises, a ripple appears, the ripple spreads, then, if you do not chase it, it fades. You do not have to fight the thought, you only have to stop throwing stones. This is not a command, it is an invitation offered by the water itself. You sit with the canal long enough that you begin to feel time differently. A little farther along the bank, you notice a small bundle of reeds tied together, resting where the mud is firm. It might be part of a repair waiting for morning, or simply a tool set down gently and forgotten in the dark. You touch it with your fingertips. The reeds are dry and light, and they give a soft, scratchy sound like pages turning. You set them back exactly as they were, and something in your chest relaxes at the thought that the world can pause mid-task and still be okay. From the direction of the city, a faint tone drifts over the plain, so soft you almost mistake it for wind. It could be a reed flute played by someone who can't sleep, letting a few notes float into the night like breath made audible. The melody is simple, repeating, unambitious. It rises, it falls, it rests. The sound arrives and leaves without grabbing you, and that is why it soothes. You imagine the player sitting on a rooftop, legs folded, lamp turned low, watching the same stars you're watching now. Maybe they are thinking about tomorrow's work. Maybe they are thinking about nothing at all, letting the notes think for them. And you feel a quiet kinship. Because you know this feeling too, the desire to make the night gentle, to give the mind something soft to lean on. Nearby, a night insect brushes your sleeve and disappears into grass. A faint scent of dates lingers in the air, sweet and dusty at once, as if the day left behind a small kindness. Even in sleep, life visits the water. If your own life has been full of responsibility, this is a comforting thought. You are not the only one who comes to the water. You are not the only one who needs a steady source. And you do not have to explain that need to anyone. It is simply part of being alive. You let your eyes trace the canal's path until it disappears into darkness. Somewhere along that path, the water will be lifted in a bowl, poured into a jar, carried into a house, used to wash hands, used to soften clay, used to cool a forehead, used to make tomorrow possible. The water never becomes dramatic, it becomes useful again and again. And usefulness, when it is gentle, becomes sacred. The modern day often feels chopped into pieces. Minutes, notifications, deadlines, small demands that tug like hooks. But out here, time feels like a single, slow fabric. The stars move, but too slowly to notice. The water moves, but too quietly to disturb. The wind moves, but only to soften the heat stored in the earth. In this kind of time, gratitude comes more naturally. Not gratitude as a performance, not gratitude as a forced, positive thought, but gratitude as a warm recognition. There are things that hold you. The bed under you, the roof above you, the breath inside you, the night around you. And perhaps if you look back toward Eridu, you can feel gratitude for the people who lived here, not because they were perfect, but because they were human. They worried, they worked, they tried to keep records, They guided water. They built small spaces of stillness. Their lives were not so different from yours. Different tools, different sounds, but the same need for a place that feels safe. This is how the past becomes a lantern, not a bright, blinding light. A soft lantern, a warm glow you can carry without strain. Here, no one rests alone. Somewhere else, across the world, another listener is also settling into quiet. Another person is letting their shoulders drop. Another mind is letting a ripple fade. The story is a small canal connecting rooms that will never meet, and yet feel less lonely because of this shared current. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, you can hold that memory gently, as if it were a cup of water you don't want to spill. You don't need to analyze it. Let it simply exist, warm in your chest. Now the wind shifts, it becomes cooler. The canal's surface shivers for a moment, and the reflected stars tremble. Then the water smooths itself again, and the stars return. Even disturbance can be brief. Even a hard day can pass. Even a restless mind can settle. You look up, and the sky feels like an open hand. Somewhere in that openness you can imagine the temple courtyard still holding its pool of ink. You can imagine the tablet house still holding its shelves of clay memory. You can imagine Enki's workshop beneath the water where wisdom is made without hurry. And you can imagine yourself, tonight, as part of that gentle structure, not separate, not abandoned, held. So as you listen, you can let the story do what it was always meant to do, lower you into the deeper layer. One slow breath at a time. Inhale like drawing cool water from deep earth. Exhale like laying it down softly, smoothing the surface. In the next part, we will return for a final, softer discovery, one that does not add information, but adds meaning. The idea that the most enduring laws of life are simple, and that you can carry them into tomorrow the way the canal carries water, quietly, faithfully, without noise. For now, stay with the wide plain. Stay with the canal's hush. Stay with the stars, steady above and below. The plain stays open around you, wide and steady, like a slow exhale that never quite ends. You sit by the canal until sitting feels like floating, and floating feels like being held. The water does not ask you to think. It does not ask you to remember. It simply reflects. Stars above, stars below, until your mind begins to understand a gentle truth without needing to name it. Some things in life are not solved, they are returned to. The wind eases, the reeds stop whispering for a moment, then begin again, softer now, as if they've decided to match the hour. Far away, the city is only a low, dark shape, and the temple is a smaller darkness within it, and the sacred pool is a stillness inside that darkness, like a quiet room inside a quiet house, inside a quiet night. You let your eyes rest on the water's surface. A tiny insect lands, making a dot of disturbance. A ring widens, fades, and the surface becomes smooth again. The stars return to their places. The water seems to say, in its calm language, even when something touches you, you can smooth again. If you have been bracing for the next thing, next email, next bill, next conversation, next responsibility, you can let that bracing soften right now, not forever, just for this breath, just for tonight. Inhale, as if coolness rises from beneath the earth. Exhale, as if your thoughts sink gently into a deeper layer. In the old imagination of this land, Enki's wisdom lived close to water, and the gifts that shaped human life, the quiet ordinances, the me, were not meant to make people tense. They were meant to make life workable, gentle, shareable, human-sized. Tonight you don't need a list, you only need a few quiet principles. the kind that can travel with you into tomorrow like water traveling through a canal. The first principle is slowness, not slowness as delay or laziness, slowness as respect. The respect that says my nervous system is not a machine, my heart is not a timer, my mind needs a softer pace to feel safe. You can practice slowness in small places, in the way you pour a glass of water, in the way you close a door, in the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening. Slowness is a craft. It is made one ordinary moment at a time. The second principle is repetition. The ancient city did not become a city by accident. The canals were cleared again and again, the banks were patched again and again, the temple was rebuilt again and again, the tablet house pressed the same shapes into clay again and again. Repetition is not dull when it is gentle. Repetition is how the body learns safety. A nightly routine, a familiar song, a steady story, these are modern canals. They guide you back to calm without requiring willpower. They simply show you the way because you have walked it before. The third principle is softness. Softness is not weakness. Softness is the ability to hold without breaking, like water holding a reflection, like clay holding a mark, like night holding a tired person until morning. If your day demanded hardness, you can lay that hardness down beside the canal. You can let your face soften. You can let your hands unclench. You can let your breathing become rounder, as if each breath were polishing the inside of your ribs. Inhale quietly. Exhale longer. The fourth principle is enoughness. In the temple courtyard, a single low lamp was enough. In the tablet house, a small bowl of water was enough. In the canal, a slow current was enough. Enoughness is a calm decision. I will stop adding weight to this moment. I will stop trying to earn rest. I will let what is already here be sufficient. If your mind argues, you don't have to fight it. You can just return to sensation, the weight of your body, the sound of the story, the cool imagined air near water. Enoughness is not proved, it is practiced. The fifth principle is belonging. The old city held itself together through shared care, shared water, shared work, shared memory, pressed into clay. No one kept a canal alone. No one kept a temple alone. No one held an entire harvest alone. And tonight, even in your room, wherever you are listening, you are not alone either. You are part of a quiet circle of listeners who have chosen the same simple thing: to soften, to breathe, to be carried for a while. Here, no one rests alone. Every story from the past is a soft lantern in the dark, gently lighting our way tonight. You sit with these principles until they stop feeling like principles and start feeling like air, present, ordinary, supportive. For a moment, you can almost see how these quiet principles lived in the ordinary rooms of Eridu. A small house made of mud brick holds the day's warmth and releases it slowly into the night. A reed mat hangs at the doorway, and when the breeze touches it, it makes a soft, brushing sound, like someone smoothing a blanket. Inside, a clay cup sits on the floor beside a sleeping place of woven reeds. A little lamp has been turned down until it is barely more than an ember, because even light can learn to be gentle. A person lies there after a long day of guiding water and lifting jars and walking the canal banks. Their hands are rough, but their face is calm. Their chest rises and falls in the simplest rhythm. Outside, the canal continues to move, and that movement is enough. Tomorrow will come, and the field will drink, and the city will wake. But for now, nothing is required. The night itself is doing the work of holding. Not far away, in the tablet house, a student presses the final mark into a small piece of clay, then pauses. They do not rush to add more. They smooth the edge with a thumb, set the tablet in a safe place, and blow out the lamp with a soft breath. Darkness fills the room like water filling a bowl, quietly, completely, without resistance. And in the temple courtyard, a caretaker walks once around the pool, listening. Their sandals make almost no sound on the cooled brick. They check the wick, adjust it slightly, and watch the reflection settle. The stars in the water tremble for an instant, then become steady again. The caretaker nods as if satisfied and leaves the stillness to do what stillness does best. If you are listening tonight from a modern room, maybe with a phone charging nearby, maybe with city sounds outside your window, you can let these images reassure you. Different century, different tools, same human need, a quieter layer under the day, a place where the mind can stop proving itself. If this story has brought you even a small calm, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself when you're ready. Something simple, like I'm here, I'm safe, I can rest. And then, without warning but without drama, a very soft expansion happens. You realize the Apsu is not only beneath the ancient world, it is beneath your world too. Not as a literal ocean under your floor, but as a deeper layer of experience under your thoughts. A calm that remains even when you can't access it quickly. A steadiness that exists even when you forget it. A sweetness that returns the moment you stop stirring the surface. And this is the twist that doesn't jolt. It only comforts, because it means you do not have to manufacture peace. You only have to remember where it is. Maybe you remember it through breath. Maybe you remember it through water, the sound of a shower, the sight of rain on a window, the feeling of a cold glass in your hand. Maybe you remember it through the dark, the safe dark of your room, the soft dark behind closed eyes. You can choose one small anchor now, a single image, the sacred pool reflecting stars, a clay tablet drying quietly, a canal carrying time like a lullaby, a low lamp, steady and warm. Hold that image gently, like a cup you do not want to spill. And if you feel your mind drifting elsewhere, you can return to the image the way water returns to its channel, without scolding, without force. A slow inhale, a slow exhale. If you like, you can answer, only in your own mind. What small me will you carry into tomorrow? One gentle ordinance that makes life kinder. Perhaps it is, I will move a little slower. Perhaps it is, I will breathe before I answer. Perhaps it is, I will turn the lights down earlier. Perhaps it is, I will speak to myself with softness. You don't need many, one is enough. The stars above seem unchanged, and that steadiness is a gift. It tells you that your life can change without the universe falling apart. It tells you that you can have a hard week and still find a quiet night. It tells you that time is larger than urgency. You let your eyelids grow heavier. Somewhere a last ripple fades, somewhere a last thought loosens its grip. You do not have to chase sleep, you only have to stop pushing it away. Let the bed hold you. Let the dark be kind as the quiet water holds the stars. The canal becomes a darker ribbon. The plain becomes a softer shadow. The story becomes a warmer hum. And somewhere in the distance, inside the city, inside the temple, inside the courtyard, the pool remains still, holding its stars, holding its silence, holding the idea that calm can be preserved. In the next part, we will begin to lower the story even further toward the simplest closing: gratitude, forgiveness, and the gentle permission to sleep, like stepping down into a cool room where nothing is required of you anymore. For now, breathe once more, as if you are returning to Apsu. Inhale, cool and quiet. Exhale, long and easy. Tonight has already done something kind, right now, safely. Without needing you to fix anything, It has simply lowered the volume. The bright edges of the day have softened, the tight knots of thought have loosened a little, and somewhere inside you, a deeper layer has begun to show itself again, like clear water appearing when silt finally settles. You can imagine the temple courtyard once more, quiet and cool, the sacred pool holding a second sky. You can imagine the tablet house with its shelves of clay memory and the slow, steady tapping that teaches the mind how to be patient. You can imagine the canals threading the plain, carrying time without urgency, and the fields resting as if the earth itself knows how to sleep. And now, as the story nears its gentlest ending, there is nothing left to chase. No more discoveries you must keep track of. No facts you must hold tightly. Only meanings that can arrive softly, the way night air arrives through a cracked window, quietly, steadily, without asking permission. If you want, you can take a slow breath here and feel your body supported. Inhale, and let your ribs expand without effort. Exhale, and let the exhale linger as if it has nowhere else to be. In the old imagination of Eridu, wisdom lived close to fresh water. Not because water was dramatic, but because it was faithful. It returned, it cooled, it nourished. It kept moving even when the surface world changed. And perhaps in your own life, you have also found that the things which truly help you are often simple. A glass of water in the middle of a stressful afternoon. A hand on your own chest when the heart feels busy. A lamp turned low, reminding your eyes they can rest. A familiar voice telling a story that does not demand anything from you. These are the modern versions of those ancient ordinances, small practices that keep the mind from scattering. In Eridu, people guided water with channels and guided memory with clay. Tonight, you can guide your nervous system in the same gentle way, not by forcing it, but by offering it a path. A path made of slower breaths, a path made of kinder words, a path made of letting one worry wait behind a gate until morning. You might notice that your thoughts feel farther away now. Not gone, just quieter, as if they've stepped back a few rooms to give you space. If one thought still sits close, you can treat it like a visitor. You don't have to entertain it. You don't have to push it out. You can simply offer it a chair by the door and let it fall asleep there. The ancient world understood something about endurance. It is built from repetition. A canal holds because it is repaired again and again. A temple holds because it is rebuilt again and again. A life holds because it is tended again and again with ordinary care. So if there is any part of you that has been judging yourself lately, you can let that judgment soften. You can remember that you are not meant to be perfect, you are meant to be human, and humans need rest, and rest is not a reward, it is a foundation. In the stories, the Apsu is beneath everything, a cool sweetness under the ground, a deep source that does not run out just because the surface is noisy. Tonight, you can let Apsu become a symbol for your own inner steadiness. Even if you cannot feel calm every day, calm still exists. Even if you forget your own softness, it is still there. Even if life has been loud, there is still a quiet layer underneath. You can feel that truth with one slow exhale. Exhale, and let your shoulders sink. Exhale, and let your tongue rest. Exhale, and let your eyes feel heavy in a friendly way. Somewhere in the distance, you can imagine the canal again, dark and smooth, reflecting a strip of sky. You can imagine a small gate closed, the water waiting without complaint. That waiting is a skill you can borrow tonight. Let tomorrow wait. Let the email wait. Let the unfinished task wait. Let the explanation wait. Tonight, you only need the next breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. And now a small, warm reflection begins to take shape, like lamplight settling on water. The people of Eridu were not separated from us by some impossible distance. They were separated by tools and languages, by maps and centuries, but their nervous systems were human like yours. They worried about food and weather. They depended on others. They carried fatigue in their bodies. They found comfort in routines. They listened to water and felt safer when it arrived. You may not have canals outside your home, but you have rhythms, a morning routine. A cup of coffee or tea, a certain chair, a certain song, the way your bed feels when you finally let your body drop. And just like the ancient caretakers kept a pool still in the center of a temple, you can keep one small still place in the center of your life. You might picture one of them now in a small room near the edge of the city. The roof is flat, and above it the sky looks close, filled with slow stars. A woven mat lies on the floor. A clay cup waits beside it. They have washed their hands in cool water, and the water has left a clean scent on their skin. They lie down with their face turned toward the doorway, where a reed curtain moves slightly in the breeze. From outside comes a distant, familiar hush. The canal, so quiet it sounds like the earth breathing. They do not fall asleep because everything is solved. And they fall asleep because the night feels reliable. And perhaps you can let reliability be your comfort too. Not a promise of perfection, only a promise of return. The return of breath, the return of morning, the return of steadiness after a hard day, like water finding its channel again. Calm can find you again, a place where you stop scrolling, a place where you stop proving, a place where you stop rehearsing, a place where you simply exist. If tonight's story has brought you even a small sense of that still place, you can let it be enough. You do not have to squeeze the feeling. You can let it stay loose like a blanket that covers you without pressing down. And there is gratitude too in the way the ancient city holds its night. Gratitude for the mud brick walls that keep the wind gentle. Gratitude for the reeds that become mats, baskets, curtains, boats. Gratitude for the hands that clear silt from canals so water can travel. Gratitude for the small lamps that turn darkness into comfort instead of fear. You do not have to force gratitude tonight. You can let it appear naturally like warmth spreading in your chest when you remember a small kindness. Someone checking on you, someone waiting for you. Someone, somewhere, wishing you well. Even if you can't think of a person, you can be that kindness for yourself. You can speak to yourself the way a calm caretaker would, softly, patiently, without criticism. You can say inside, you did enough today. Now you can rest. Let that sentence settle like warm tea, spreading through your chest, until even the small muscles around your eyes feel unguarded. And if a part of you still wants to plan, you can offer it a gentle promise. We'll return to this tomorrow. Then you can turn the lights down in the mind, one breath at a time. Now imagine the temple lamp being turned even lower, until it becomes a gentle ember. Imagine the courtyard growing darker, not frightening, just softer like velvet. Imagine the stars reflected in the pool, steady and patient. And in that darkness, you can practice a quiet kind of forgiveness. Forgiveness for the day that was too much. Forgiveness for the words you wish you had said differently. Forgiveness for the hours you spent worrying. Forgiveness for the version of yourself that tried hard and got tired. You don't have to say anything out loud, you can just feel the softness of releasing a little blame, like setting a heavy jar down on the ground and realizing your hands can rest. Inhale, and feel your chest lift. Exhale, and feel your hands unclench. The story has been carrying a simple message all along. The most beautiful things often arrive in silence. A canal does not announce its work. A tablet does not shout its memory. A pool does not demand attention. And your own healing, most of the time, does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives as a quiet evening, a calmer breath, a softer jaw. A moment when you stop resisting the weight of sleep. So if you feel sleep approaching, you can welcome it the way the Apsu welcomes a ripple, with patience, with steadiness, with no need to control it. If you are still awake, that is also okay. You can rest anyway. You can let your body rest even while the mind takes a few more slow laps. Eventually the laps become wider and the water becomes still. Here, no one rests alone. If tonight's story reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below when you're ready. And if this story brought you calm, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime journeys. For now, just remain here, between stars and water, between past and present, between the day that has ended and the sleep that is arriving. Inhale, as if you are drawing cool water from deep earth. Exhale, as if you are laying it down softly, smoothing everything it touches. In the next and final part, we will let the camera of the mind drift even lower until the story becomes almost pure breath and darkness, and the night closes gently around you like a kind hand. The night has grown deeper now, the way a lake grows deeper when the wind finally stops and the surface becomes a single, quiet sheet. If you can still picture Eridu, it is mostly silhouette. Low roofs, gentle walls, a temple outline softened by distance. The lamps are nearly all asleep, the canals are darker than ink. The fields have turned into one wide shadow, breathing slowly under the stars. And yet, even in that darkness, there are a few steady things you can trust. You can trust that the water continues, whether you watch it or not. You can trust that the sky keeps its patient lights. You can trust that your breath will return again, even if you stop paying attention to it. You can trust that rest does not require you to be perfect. So tonight, we will do the simplest thing. We will return to the deepest layer. We will return to the Apsu within you, not as a myth you must believe, but as an image that helps your body remember calm, a cool sweetness under the foundation, a stillness that remains even when the surface world is busy. In your imagination, you are back at the temple courtyard, but the courtyard is darker now than before. The oil lamp has been turned down until it is only a small ember. The sacred pool is almost invisible except for the stars it holds. Those reflected stars look like soft lanterns resting on water, and the water holds them without effort. You step closer, slowly, as if you do not want to disturb the quiet. Your sandals, if you wear them in your mind, make no sound on the cooled brick. Your shoulders hang lower. Your face feels smoother. The day is far away now, not erased, just placed gently on a shelf like a tablet that can be read another time. You kneel at the pool's edge. If you place your fingertips in the water, it is cool, clean, and kind. A small ripple appears, widens, fades, and the surface becomes still again. The reflected stars return, faithful as ever. And the water teaches you, without words, what the whole story has been saying. Even when something touches you, you can smooth again. If you would like, you can take one slow breath with that lesson. Inhale, softly, as if drawing cool water up from deep earth. Exhale, slowly, as if laying it down across your body, smoothing everything it touches. Let your exhale be the longer one, not forced, just slightly more generous. Let it tell your nervous system, in a language older than thought, that the danger has passed and the night is safe. In the distance, you can imagine the tablet house with its shelves of clay memory. The lamps there are low too. The last student has stopped pressing marks into clay. The last tablet has been set aside to dry. The room has become quiet, not empty, but rested. Outside, a canal gate is closed. Water waits behind it, calm and patient, as if water has never once believed that hurry makes anything better. If your mind still wants to plan, you can offer it the same gate. You can say gently, inside your own thoughts, "Not now. Not now for tomorrow's conversations. Not now for tomorrow's tasks. Not now for the sentence you wish you had said differently. Not now for the list that keeps trying to appear. Not now." And then you can let the gate settle into place, firm but kind, and let the water of your attention return to the present moment, where nothing is required except breathing. A small breeze crosses the courtyard and dies. The reed curtain in the doorway moves once, then rests. Somewhere far away, a night bird calls, and the sound is so soft it feels like the sky sighing. You look up. The stars above the temple roof are steady. They do not flash. They do not compete. They simply keep their positions night after night, and their steadiness is a comfort because it is not asking anything from you. You look down again. The stars in the pool are steady too, and it feels like you are standing between two skies, held in the middle by breath. Above, quiet light. Below, quiet water. Between, you, supported. If tonight has been a difficult night, if you came to this story carrying worry in your chest, you can let yourself be proud of one simple thing. You arrived, you chose softness. You found a place to rest your attention. That matters. It matters because small choices shape the nervous system the way small repairs shape a canal bank. One gentle night does not solve everything, but it can change the direction of the current. It can help the water travel more smoothly tomorrow. So if there is one thing you can carry from this story, carry this. Calm can be practiced. Calm can be stored. Calm can return. You can store it the way a caretaker carries water in a bowl, carefully, quietly, without spilling. You can practice it the way a scribe presses one mark at a time, patient and steady. You can return to it the way a canal returns to its channel, guided without force. Now the story begins to fade on purpose. There is no new information, no new names, only the gentle closing of doors, the dimming of lamps, the lowering of your mind into a deeper room. Imagine, if you like, that you are walking down a few simple steps. One step into quiet, one step into cool air, one step into a room where the ceiling is low and the world cannot shout. With each step, you release something small. Release the forehead, release the jaw, release the shoulders, release the hands, release the belly. Your body knows how to do this. It has done it before. You do not need to instruct it. You only need to allow it. Inhale and feel the bed or the chair or the place beneath you holding your weight. Exhale and feel yourself being held without effort. If your thoughts wander, let them wander like reeds in a light breeze. They can sway, they can return. You do not have to chase them. You can watch them the way you watch ripples fade on water. If a memory appears, let it be soft. If a worry appears, let it be quiet. If a plan appears, let it be distant. Everything can be placed on the edge of the pool and left there overnight. For a moment, you might remember where you are listening from tonight. Maybe it is an apartment with city sounds softened by glass. Maybe it is a house where the heating hums gently, or a room where a fan makes a steady, friendly whisper. Whatever surrounds you, you do not need to change it. You can let it become part of the story's texture, the way Eridu's night included reeds, water, and faraway footsteps. Busy days can feel like they keep going even after you lie down. The mind replays meetings. The heart stays slightly braced. But the night is allowed to be different. The night can be a boundary, like the temple wall. It's holding a still pool inside it. So very gently you can do a slow body scan the way you might walk along a canal bank, checking only for softness. Notice your forehead and let it smooth. Notice your eyes and let them sink comfortably. Notice your jaw and let the teeth separate. Notice your shoulders and let them drop. Notice your chest and let it rise and fall easily. Notice your hands and let the fingers uncurl. Notice your belly and let it soften like warm clay. Notice your legs and feet and let them feel heavy and safe. If you like, imagine each exhale as water flowing out of a canal gate, carrying away the day's leftover tension. Not in a rush, just steadily until the bank holds and the current becomes smooth. Inhale and feel the air arrive. Exhale and feel the air leave, slower. And as the body settles, you can let one small gratitude appear, simple and ordinary. Gratitude for the surface beneath you. Gratitude for the room that shelters you. Gratitude for the fact that you made it to this moment and you are here. You do not have to think positively. You only have to notice that something is holding you tonight, the way water is held by earth. And now, a final reflection arrives, gentle as a whisper. The most beautiful things often come in silence, a calm breath, a kind thought, a familiar voice, a dim lamp, a still pool holding stars. These are not small things, they are foundations. So tonight, let the foundation hold. Let Apsu, the deep sweetness under the world, become the deep sweetness under your thoughts. Let it cool you. Let it steady you. Let it remind you that there is a layer beneath the surface where you do not have to perform. Here, no one rests alone. Somewhere, another listener is turning down a lamp. Somewhere, another person is letting their shoulders drop. Somewhere, another breath is slowing. And in this quiet corner of the night, your presence adds warmth. If this story brought you calm, you can leave a gentle comment for yourself when you are ready, even a single word like peace or home. And if you'd like to return tomorrow night, remember to subscribe to Ancient Sleep Story, so these quiet journeys can keep meeting you when the day is done. Now let the pool darken, let the stars soften, let the temple fade into silhouette, let the canals become a hush, let your eyelids grow heavy like curtains settling. Inhale, cool and quiet. Exhale, long and easy. And as you drift, remember one last time, there are secrets you do not have to solve. You only have to sit beside them until your heart becomes calm and sleep arrives like water, gentle, faithful, and deep.
Our story pauses here. Every visual and word you've experienced was assisted by AI, yet guided and perfected by sincere human emotion. We hope this harmony of history and technology has crafted a beautiful dream for you tonight. Let go and drift deep into sleep. Good night.